Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April the 2nd regular Legislative Committee meeting of the Town of Vegreville. I call the meeting to order at 3:01. I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Thank you. Councilor Rudick. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up, the adoption of the minutes of our last regular legislative meeting. Councilor Warwa makes the motion. Any errors or omissions within the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we're moving on right away to our quarterly progress reports, and we're going to start with our Public Works Department, and I think Director Lefebvre will be taking this for Dan today, Manager Dan.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, in Dan Quigg's absence, I'll be doing the report on his behalf. We've got our first attachment opened up. I'm sure you do. The first one is the concrete crushing. First, we'll go over the items that were approved in the budget for his 2024 operating budget and just give you some status where we're at. The concrete crushing, that was sent out to Alberta Purchasing Connection, to APC, for tender because of the amount of the dollar amount on the project. And the tenders closed on the 29th of March. So we're going to open them up this week and go through and review all their WCB and all the requirements we have. The tender was $160,000 for concrete crushing. Our pile is down, as you are all aware. We use it very much for road basing and different projects. We are going to stick with a 90 millimeter crush. That's 3 inch to 3 1/4 inch. We find that it laps over well and bites in when you put it down. We're having some really good success with the base work on it. So it's good because we're not using natural resources. We're recycling a product, and the price is really I foresee it coming in right around the same price as raw material, and we're reusing something that's filling up the landfill basically. So we're estimating to hopefully get about 9,000 ton out of this 160,000.
And did we put a date when we wanted this done by, like within the tender, or we're just waiting to negotiate with the successful?
Yeah, in the tender documents, they will put a start date and then the amount of days they feel this project would take. So let's say, they'll want to start by June something, whatever they put, and it'll be a 30-day construction period is typically what happens.
Okay, any questions on that project? Okay, keep going.
You've heard of this for the last few years, the CFR sand seal. The budget was a $70,000 budget for 2024, and that's a sand seal film that we put on top of roads that'll buy us a few extra years, 4 to 6 years, depending on the traffic that we're getting on it. As you remember, the first time we put it down a few years ago, we laid it out and got hit by a surprise rain cloud. That kind of shortened things up for us, but since then, the product has been doing well. The contractor did come back under warranty, no cost to the town, and relay those roads that got hit by the unsuspecting rain. So we're happy with it. I know we put in 5 to 10 years because that's what the company says it'll do, but we know it's 3 to 6 is pretty reasonable for it. This is buying us a lot of time with our quality pavement management index that we use, because it's giving us a date when roads need to be overlaid and best overlaid by. And as you know, when we get past an overlay opportunity, then we go into full reconstruction, which is 10 times the cost of overlay. This 70,000 it buys us, quite a few blocks, and it buys us another 5 years, let's say, of time that'll still qualify for an overlay instead of going to full reconstruction. We're talking dollars of $60 a square meter for an overlay, and if you're going to do any deep service and stuff, you can get up around the $400 a square to reconstruct and put it back in. So it's by far a more economic way to do it. Yes, sir.
Approximately how many blocks can you do for that?
I believe we were averaging it, because some are longer, some are shorter. I know you get that, but about 10,000 a block is a pretty good average to do. Because it's not like crack filling where there's more cracks in the road, we use more product. If there's less, there's less. We're doing the entire road evenly, regardless of what's underneath. So it's pretty consistent to that, if I remember right. Dan was here, I could ask him.
Okay, carry on, Dick.
Okay, and this was in the budget as well for 103,500. It was an estimate, locally for paving 47th Avenue. 47th Avenue is the one block stretch just on the north side of Horizon Village, if you remember that. That when Horizon Village was built, we put in a new water line on that side many years ago, and they paved half the road and the other half remained coal mix. And it's at the point now where it's done. We have to remove the coal mix and the paved portion and then lay it down and pave it. So we're just, we've got the estimates now. We'll have to revisit it soon and move on with the project. Still early, still in April. Any questions on that?
Oh, you look good.
Okay, next page, refurbishing manholes. This is becoming more and more popular as we go along. We try to respin or refurbish or coat the insides of them. Some of them we can go in and actually rebuild, have the bottoms rebuilt where the pipes connect into the perch base, it's called, at the bottom, and rebuild those, and then we can spin it, which is putting a product on the inside, and then we're not replacing the entire manhole. It's far cheaper. We can do, you know, in 40,000, we'll get 3 for sure, and if not too bad, we can squeeze 4 manholes in. This does not have a whole bunch to do with the clay pipe coming into the manholes. If those are damaged, as you know, we experienced last year, you can chase them for a while till they quit cracking and breaking to connect to. But these ones that we're gonna do is good maintenance, and we're anticipating a 50-year repair on this. Because once they stop leaking and water infiltrating, it stops washing away grout and things, and then the structure stays stronger, longer. So it's a good, easy product to put on, to buy us a lot of time. Because everything is very expensive now, for sure.
Yeah, well, just having somebody on site to replace a manhole, just to get someone rigged up and on site is a lot of money, so. Well, that's good, it's a good maintenance, and if you can get another 30 to 40 years out of that piece of, infrastructure, it's good.
Absolutely it is, yep. They have a running list of several manholes that need attention, and of course, we're gonna evaluate every year just before and pick the 3 or 4 that are the worst candidates. And then as we come across them where they start to fail, then they get added to the list, just like this sidewalk miscellaneous program, same sort of thing. Unless we have imminent failure and we have to repair, then we do. But we're trying to have a program more so than reactive to it, so. The sewer lining program on the next page, it's, we've been sewer lining, not a lot in the past, but having some good results the last couple of years. So we've talked with council at this last budget run to introduce a program of 100,000 a year to get us started and see where we go. Lining has been around for a while, quite a while, and just as far as I'm considered with the areas around here, just now being more accepted as a good maintenance practice. As they put it out there, and I think over 10, 15 years has proven itself in a lot of situations. So when we're at our training that we take to be water and wastewater operators and maintain our certification, we're talking to the other operators, and a lot of towns they just say you're a fool if you're not gonna start a lining program. It's the way to go to buy you a lot of time on the product, so that's what we're gonna do as well. Stay ahead of it. So it's 100,000 that was budgeted, and we're gonna, because of the dollar amount, we'll be going to APC to put this out for tender very soon.
Okay. No questions?
The next page, this has been on the books last year, and the work did not get completed. It was the 52nd Street from 45th Ave north. And it was to install the new main line, the 7 services, and then repave and base the road. We had upped it this year at 300,000. I have on the next attachment, which we're gonna see soon, I've got some information I wanna show you. Yes, it's a sewer line. Yes, it's an active sewer line. But I need to explain to you what we're doing and some milestones that we've come across even just this spring with some equipment and some good ideas. So this project is not in the process of receiving quotes. From the information I've gotten, this project is gonna be put on hold and monitored. As they were able to bust through, if you will, some of the material that grows in the pipe. I'll show it on the next slide. It'll make more sense. So the thought is if, once we're through this and we're not gonna have to touch it for a while, then that 300,000 will go into reserves except for a couple of additional manholes. Dale would like to peel some money out of it. So we're confident now, running through this line, that it's gonna be a candidate and monitored to be lined instead. And, probably within this year or next year, we'll line it, we'll keep an eye on it. It's not as bad as was previously reported to us. So now it's gone from a $300,000 daylight and repair to probably something like 20,000 to line that stretch, so a fraction of the cost. So I'll get into that in the next attachment.
And then what about, where we were gonna be paving there?
The pavement, we'll have to have a look and see, because if we're gonna just be able to line this thing, then we will pave it. So the water valves are new. We're just gonna see. I'll still get an estimate on paving it this year and use a portion of this money for that, because it needs it. And I'm hoping I can get farther down the block with pavement, because I'm not gonna have to do the sewer line. So we'll stretch our dollars here to the most that we can done this year.
So moving forward with what we're about to see, this $300,000, you'd like to do a couple other manholes with some of this and pave a little bit further on 52nd Street.
Yep, and if pavement looks like it could be put off next year, or we need a little more to get to the end of the block, then I'll put the balance in reserves. We'll do a carryover, and then next year we'll add a little bit to it and maybe do that whole block, the whole 52nd to the bend. Would be nice, because it is. All right, you making notes of that so we remember at budget time? Okay. All right, Jameson, if you could put up the next one, I will too. So that's the inside of a clay tile 8-inch sewer pipe. That's a calcite buildup, and that's on this 52nd Street in the manhole, just north of 45th, but it is looking north towards 45th. What this is a picture of is the clay tile joints are joined together with a rubber gasket, and that's a 60s, 70s, and even early 80s type of sewer line. And those rubbers give it up after a while, and then this growth comes in as minerals from the water start to seep through into it. And they will get to the point where they'll almost completely block off a sewer line. The problem we have is the stuff is hard as a rock. You would need a chisel and a hammer to break that away. It's difficult to do by running a sewer cleaner in and back and in and back, because you're not even sure where they are. So I'm gonna go to the next one. It is a video, and it will be after we've cleaned it. So if you can go to the next one, Jameson, next slide, please. So we've been able to break this one open so then we can get the camera through. I just had it stop here. I just wanted a 20-second shot so you can kind of see what's happening at these joints and the problem it causes us. I believe that is it for the video. So just hit a play again, Jameson. And if you have the ability to stop it when I want it stopped? Oh, we didn't review that part. Yeah, that's good there. You can stop. So that material is very hard. Now, we've beat this up a lot with the sewer cleaner to break free, so it's flowing and it's working well. This is important to show because the next slide I'm going to show you is how our cleaner cleans. And we have a company that has come to us that has a sewer cleaner that shoots not only a stream of water at very high pressure, but they can aim it and turn it, and with the camera behind, so they can see what they're shooting at. We're going down with a sprayer that has 5 nozzles, and we go all the way up and come all the way down, and whatever it gets, it gets. So you can go through that 100 times. So 2 budgets ago, council approved a headset for the sewer cleaning crew, that they could have the headsets on their remote. So now we've got the crew at one manhole dropping in our televising camera. We run that up till we see a joint like this. Then the guys on the other end of the block bring the sewer cleaner up with the jets, which you'll see on the next one, and they bring it up. So now we can see exactly within an inch where we're at, whereas before you're always guessing. And then they fired it up and take it up to about 2,000 PSI, and they go back and forth on the radio, go ahead, go back, and they work that one spot, and they're having some pretty good results. The benefit the hired truck has is the one beam, because it's far high tech than what we have, and it shoots 1 minute, so they can sit there just like a gun and point and pick away, like a water pick, I guess, but very high pressure. It's, you know, just under $1,000 an hour, but still, if he spends 2 days and cleans up a block, that's far cheaper than digging the whole thing up and replacing it. And this makes it very difficult to line as well, obviously, because you can't line something with that in it. So if we go to the next slide, it'll probably start playing right away. Yeah, we just did this one, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, next one. That's it cleaned after we beat it up. So here we are, just put it on pause. So we've got the camera down the sewer line. You can see they've run this through several times, so the pipe's looking really good. And right behind that spray nozzles, when they pull back, you see the last of the buildup that's there. So we've got one crew on one side with the camera watching what's happening, talking with the headsets to the crew that's on the sewer truck running the controls for this. So we got two pieces of equipment working together in there. So you can hit play on that. And it's again about 20 seconds long. And that's about 2,000, 2,200 PSI coming out of there. So it's an awful lot. You see them pull it back, and then they radio again, another pull back. Because you want to sit right on that material.
Build up, yeah. So you're saying that neoprene washer
Is good.
gasket breaks down, and once outside contaminant starts coming through there is when this starts, eh?
Yep, yep. So he's just working that joint to, or they are, it's not he, they're
Yeah.
they. People power. And without the ability to see like this, you don't know where your nozzle exactly is and where do you sit and try and work on one specific area when you just don't know. There they go, and that's what's left. So there's still a lot of buildup there, but the bottom of it is quite clean. Obviously, that's where 90% of the flow is. There you go. So that's on almost every joint out there in the pipes that are getting to be that age. So that's the problem, that's the challenges we have, you know. So we were really excited about this company that comes out with this one-shot system, because if it's effective and that good, then it's worth it for us to see what that upgrade's gonna cost so that we can do that.
Oh, we want to purchase this.
Well, if it works with the truck and the pressure system
Yeah.
that we have, then yes, we do, because we have the ability to see now.
Yeah.
We've got the cameras, we're not that far away.
Yeah, for sure.
Or $1,000 an hour to rent one, so, but we'll see, we'll get to that, we're
Yeah.
happy with this.
How many sections per block you would say joins like that?
I believe those joints are 1.5 meters, so several, lots.
But if we can make the whole pipe look like the clean part, we can definitely get a liner shot in there
Yeah,
and avoid,
and once you seal it again, then you don't have this problem again.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Got a
'cause-
new line essentially for,
yeah, well, daylighting, it just costs so much money and then, yeah, well,
so yeah, I wanted you to see what it was, because it's impressive, it's another step, and it just stopped us, you know.
it's like concrete, eh?
any questions regarding, that's good, I mean, that, we can get something like that in our arsenal and it'll be good.
I do.
Well, let's see what you got.
This is a manhole on 5310 48th Avenue. So if you went to the mall and went a block south, there's that triangle area, green space, that used to be a playground 50 years ago. What's on that corner? There's a manhole. This is after we've worked and worked and worked and worked and worked this manhole over. Go to the next one. You can see back about 1 meter, it's cleaner. That's where we can get it to come off. We can't get this to come off, and this manhole's not in great shape. So now that we've found this, we're thinking this may be a candidate for manhole replacement. We may have to pull this right out and replace it, and then we are faced then with the problem of tying into that play tile without it continuing to break, and we chase it. Once we can get that done, then again, it becomes a candidate to line, because there's so much leakage around the manhole that it's good, it's still flowing, and it is, so. So I just wanted to show you that is actually a before and an after, and you're looking at the after with our equipment. There's nothing more we can do with it. Yep, as before. And after. Sort of one looking west, one looking east, but that's how it looks. So I just wanted to throw that in, that's what you get to when you start. And, yeah, a lot of maintenance, That will conclude my presentation on behalf of Manager Quigg.
Any questions? Councilor Rudick?
Thank you, Dale. It looks like there's lots going on, and all the things that you presented today are on track, it looks like. Is there anything of note that you feel like we should know? It's been kind of a different winter than you usually have. Anything that's happening with Public Works that maybe isn't on track? These are projects, obviously, that we discussed in budget, but anything that you feel like is happening in the department that's maybe a little bit out of the norm?
I can talk about our utilities department. We remember the Northwest Sewer Lift that had gone down. We're now 2 new pumps, the new rail system. We have protection, confirmed protection for a phase failure, because they were in 3-phase power. We have now put a CAS system in on 1 pump that's a belt and suspender to the phase limiter. ATCO can never guarantee that you're gonna have 3 phases. You can lose one, anything can happen to drop one. So what we need is better protection when that happens than what we had in the past. So we just got 1 more pump that's in there that's gonna get installed with this system to protect it. It's been is an expensive project. It costs a lot of money to get this thing up and running. Everything is rebuilt and new, and we want 2 protective systems on, so that pumps are not trying to start on 2 phases and do the damage that they caused in the worst terrible time that it could ever be. Just for a note, the new lift station at Prosperity has a phase limiter system in it as well, and it doesn't have to drop a phase to stop the engines from starting and fire up the diesel, which then powers the electricity of the building, so we separate ourselves from the main line. If it sees 10% of a phase differential, it turns on the diesel and shuts off the outside power so the pumps can't be damaged. So that's a big step up in technology from what's in that station. So we've got two systems on the Northwest Sewer Lift now to protect us. So a couple more installs and we're gonna be in good shape and well protected out there. And then you'll see in next year's budget, what we wanna do also is put a building out there, just not on top of the sewer lift station, but beside it, and then we can run our electronic controls inside a building, only heated when we need to go in there and do something. It won't be heated, but because of the components are sitting on top of basically a large culvert, which is the lift station, with steel lids, and H2S has been coming up for 60 years, the metal doors and things and the components, they take a beating in there. So what's easy to do and very inexpensive is just to run those controls, 20 feet away into a RJV building, and you're done. So there's a big learning curve on that one.
Well, it's been in place for quite a while. People don't even know it's there. And then, so that little problem that we had at minus 48, whatever it was, do you think that $250,000 will cover the bill out there?
I have a running total when these CAS protection systems are done, and it will be brought to council likely in the form of a meeting or workshop or something. And then we can lay out all the expenses from equipment hired to everything, from start to finish, what this cost.
So right now, we're using infrastructure reserves is how we're paying this right now, is an unbudgeted item. I guess Director Sasky would know that.
We have been using operations out of last year, if I'm understanding right, so just not do some other things and then cover this one.
Okay.
So it's not, we're not pulling out our reserves at this point.
Okay, yeah, so again, everybody understands what happened there, right? When is the utility company had any say in this matter whatsoever? Like,
Haven't even been approached, because the more I dig into it, there is no, a phase was dropped, we know that, because ATCO showed up and went up and re-energized the 3rd phase, or a phase. And, but that has happened before, so there's no guarantee that you're not gonna lose a phase.
But now we have a guarantee that when we do,
Two guarantees. Two systems, they're not as fancy and high-tech, because this one's inside a nice warm building at the new lift station. These components have to be able to work outside at -40 and still be functional, so they're a little different, but.
okay, any questions regarding that project? Okay. Well, looks like your report is done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Dan. Okay. So no questions there. We're gonna move over to Manager Tony Temptation, and we're gonna look at municipal services.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the first one we're gonna go is, the Halfton we had budgeted for roads, and that is gonna be at Public Works, and it's got a heavy load capacity on it, stuff mainly for hauling our hot seat trailer around, because we need truck, we use it with the 1 ton, but a lot of times we need the 1 ton for something else, so we needed something to suffice that we could have 2 units to take that trailer out around town. Because unfortunately, for a regular half ton, it squats it down pretty good, and it's pretty hard on the springs and stuff on it, so that's why we're getting the heavy payload capacity and a bunch of stuff on the new truck. And it's just a regular cab 8-foot box. I went to all 3 dealerships and got prices from all of them, and it actually has been awarded to Grant Miller. So the truck is on order from there at the present time, and just they figure they should be showing up about the end of June, he was hoping, so someplace in that timeline is when we should get it. And then, once we receive it, naturally, we gotta put box liner it and the racks on the box and all that kind of good stuff. But once we get it, we'll get that on, and then that will be up and going into the fleet.
What color did you order?
Beautiful white.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, there's no questions, it's a straight deal. Okay,
next one is our parts washer for the Public Works shop, and that has been purchased in town from bumper to bumper. And at present, it is all wired in, and we are using it in the shop at present time, so that, it makes a big difference in helping the techs with getting the parts clean and not wasting time cleaning them, when they can throw everything in there and just go and start doing something else and let it clean it. So it's been really favorable for them working in the shop, for sure.
And no more hard chemicals.
And no more hard chemicals, yeah, it's all with soap and water, that's all environmentally friendly. And I'm glad to say that we come in under budget at that, so we come in at $16,242, so.
thanks. Any questions? Eco-friendly, under budget parts washer,
Yes.
things are looking good.
Next one is the compact cylinder for Unit 121, and that is the old recycling truck, because the new truck went into recycling, and now, so 121 goes into the waste field and gets used there. So that's where this cylinder is for. I got it ordered through Superior in Calgary, and at present time, it's not in yet, but they figure I should be seeing it probably another 4 weeks or so. They figured someplace in that field when it shows up, so.
Have we used this truck lately, or is it still usable?
Oh, yeah, it's still usable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just what's happening is it's getting worn on the cylinder, on the sleeves, and it's starting to leak around the seals a little bit and stuff like that. So, and we found in trying to rebuild them, the last one I had rebuilt was really close to the same price as a new one, and they just don't seem to last as long even when you re-chrome them and stuff. So we're just better off getting a new one. It seems to last longer for us, so.
Okay, any questions? Okay, keep going.
Next one is the loader tires that we bought, and we put them onto our John Deere loader, so that one, and then we took the tires off that and we put it onto 313 at Parks, the old tires off that one. So that was all, put that through, and we bought them through Cal Tire in town, and they're all installed, and they're on both units already, and you're using them. And glad to say we come in under budget at that at $16,431, so.
And what we have at the landfill, we have on solid tire, right?
It's all solid rubber at the landfill, yes, yeah. It's a little rough in the winter, but it's good.
Very large hockey puck.
Yeah. Next is gravel for the landfill. And I'm just waiting. I actually phoned and talked to both people I talked about getting it. And they talked to them this morning again, said, where's my prices? And they said they'll have it to me in a couple weeks. So they're kind of waiting for, I guess, the winter to go or something before they start. I don't know why, but that's the excuse to use. So,
Well, nobody's using gravel right now.
yeah, so,
As soon as the usage starts, the price goes up.
yeah, exactly. That's probably what it is for sure.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so I'm just waiting on to get some prices for that.
And this gravel that we're talking about is just to build up the roads at the landfill, right?
Correct, yeah, on all the gravel roads around the landfill. So when we go around, like with the burn piles and all through there, that's all mud, so we're gonna gravel all that, and then up from the pavement up to where the open pit is up top there, and gravel all that, and then just that whole area, a little bit of road to the lagoons and just all that, because when it gets muddy, it's really, really hard to get around in there, so.
When do we think that we'll be sending liquid to the new lift station after it's commissioned, I guess, right? That's right.
Hopefully soon.
Now, remember, what we're taking at the lift station is what the septic haulers are hauling to the lagoons. Tony does have vac trucks that haul to a special area at the landfill, and they're the trucks that are doing the hydrovac. They're full of mud, rocks, things like that. So they dump into a different area that it evaporates, and then when it dries up, they scoop that material out and use some of it for fill, I imagine, here and there. But, so those guys will not be unloading at the septage receiving station at the new landfill. It will just be those that are hauling right straight into the lagoons right now.
It'll be nice when we actually can capture the amount of volume they're dumping in and not, oh, I got half a tank, I got a quarter of a tank.
No, for sure, that'll be nice, yes. So, and then the last one is for the new garbage truck. So I went on APC, and basically I got no quotes at all for it on APC. Nobody put a price in at all. So then I went back to Superior where we bought the last one, and I said, get me a quote. And the quote he gave me for when I was kind of budgeting it was really close to what I got when he gave me a quote at the final there. So the big thing, it's gone up lots, even in the 2 years that we purchased when we ordered the other one. And the big amount is in the chassis. Like the chassis has gone up, I think $50,000 alone just to get the chassis for that truck. Like it's crazy how much they've gone up. And so with the price I got from what we paid for the old one, like 2 years ago that we just received, this one is gonna be like $100,000 more for the same truck, identical, but it's just with the price increases of everything, that's how much everything has gone up, so.
So it was 317,000 roughly,
Well, 372 is what we paid.
372, and this year is,
It's 474 for the one coming in 2025.
and just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, so,
Let's send them one of our old chassis.
yeah,
Build it on that platform.
I would like to if I could. But unfortunately, there's a reason why we parked that thing there.
Yeah.
So, and just some other things I'd like to bring up is like our curbside that we're having, our curbside pickup that Arma is coming to do in town, and from June 4th to June 6th. And for us, that's a very easy venue to have in town, I guess is the easy way to put it, because they basically do everything. All I have to do is give them one little trailer to tow around behind their truck to pick up some stuff in, and the rest are gonna have trucks to take the rest of the stuff, so for us, it's a pretty easy sell to do something like that. And no charge, yes, so. And then the roundup on June 15th, we're having. So anything that we have, that we take in that we won't get rid of at the curbside, we'll make sure it's gone when we do the roundup, so. That's why we kind of put the roundup right after the curbside pickup, so, and to work the two of them together. And that's all I have.
I have one I'd like to add. I know we talked this morning, Tony Bagman had, and Brianne had brought it up to me, and it's a good topic. We as the recycling department, the solid waste department, want to just throw a shout out to our municipal enforcement. It's been really nice to work with them in the last while with recycling, because we were having some issues with some not good stuff at all showing up in the recycle bins, contaminating everything. So the crew there will, be careful and open it up. And if it's your household garbage, your name's in there somewhere. It just is. And not in the past. Now I'm thankful for them because they will go and they will check and they will find people and they will knock on doors and they'll just have that conversation. It's not tickets, it's conversation. We found this, it ended up here. Here's what happens to our recycle when this mess gets in there. And it's been really good because, and it's been quite a few, probably 5 or 6 in just 2 months. So, like I said, there's no tickets, there's no enforcement, but it's public education. And I think people are surprised that they're even knocking on the door going, hey, this is what we found here, as opposed to, it's gone. It's funny how it's usually someone stole their garbage.
Yeah, you get a lot of it.
So we'll have to talk to the RCMP about them stealing the garbage in the first place. But no, it's worth a shout out to work with Shalane and Gurpreet was just been boom, they're on it. It's been really good, so.
What about the green bins that say no branches? Is there any way? I mean, they're so full of branches, it's crazy.
Yes, well, that's another thing, I guess, when we start collecting them, I'll get them involved and see. I know I drive around and I check to see if I can figure out what yard it comes.
Oh, yeah, well, if
And
some of
then
it's all spruce.
Yeah.
And you see 3 doors down, there's nothing but a bunch of spruce
So I-
limbed up.
So I have gone and talked to him personally, but now maybe with sending bylaw there might be a little bit more enforceful than having me just go over there and talk to them, so I really appreciate when he goes, because it helps us out lots.
Yeah, because they can identify branches and trees just through DNA, and we'll do DNA test. But there's nothing worse. And 98% of the people that drive down the alley look at it and shake their head. It's like, why can't people catch on? Like, it's not that they don't know the difference. They just don't give a...
Right, yes.
Well, that is very good, Manager Tentition. We appreciate to hear what's going on. Hopefully, we'll be able to find some provincial dollars to finish off that landfill here fairly soon. And I know that that plan is just about ready to go, correct, Director Lefebvre?
Yes, I'd hate to say I wasn't listening. I have information to bring to you and I can't find it here. I'll find it. I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, just the final stage at the landfill when then everything and, the roll-off bins and stuff are all ready, the back up to and stuff.
Yep.
Because, we'd like to start applying for some grant money to see what we can do to get that set up out there. I know you guys got a lot on your plate right now. But, that's still in our front of our minds that we'd like to get that done up to make it safe out there and make it look very nice, so.
Yeah, every time I go to someplace, I go have a look at what they have, just to get different ideas from different communities, so it's just, so when we go into doing it, I know we have a plan, but maybe there's something we can tweak to make it a little bit more efficient than that somebody already went through and reinvented it already for us, right, so.
Oh, somebody else has made a mistake, we'd like to know what it was.
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming in today, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, CAO Ling. And we have a new policy, GOV-10XX.
Actually, Your Worship, it is not on the agenda, but Corporate Services Director Saskew has she needs to talk to council about something.
So, when I ask, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda, I would now have to ask Director Saskew if she would like to get in on this. Okay, well, then we have a change to the agenda. All in favor? Look at that. Would have been easy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have to head out in about
Yes,
10 minutes, so
we
I'm
did.
just bumping myself forward. I have a couple things for council, so I might as well I have this memo planned out. It was supposed to be corporate services highlights, but in lieu of time, I'll just read it out as we go. So we have formalized a listing of tax notifications for 2024. It has been forwarded to land titles for processing, so that is all done. Wild and Company is currently working on completion of 2023 audit. Scheduling for the presentation is draft form April 16th of 2024 and finalized statement on April 22nd, 2024 with formal presentation from the auditors. So on the 16th, I'll be going through statements with you, and on the 22nd, the auditors will be in. In conjunction with the presentation of draft financials, we're also working on financial information return, statement of funding and expenditures, and for all streams of grant income, and those deadlines are May 1st. So those are all set to be completed in conjunction with the audit. One other thing I have is the 2023 assessment from the assessor has been received for the purposes of calculating the 2024 tax notices and assessments. So I'm looking for direction of council on the breakdown between residential and non-residential taxation for 2024. The table below outlines recent historical breakdowns. You can't see this table, but it has been 47% and 50 residential and 53% non-residential for 5+ years. So we had that in 23, 22, 21, and 2020. We did go through different allocations. It does substantially change residential if we do increase that rate. I have some updates for you on what that assessment looks like. So current year assessment breakdown between residential and non-residential as a percentage of total assessment is not significantly changed from prior year. So residential is 67.8%, prior year was 67.2%, and then non-residential is 32.2%, and prior year was 32.8%. So overall, the percentages are very comparable. I ran my property tax rate formula just based on our new levy and our updated residential and non-residential assessments, and the actual mill rates are very comparable to the prior year. So that's not with updated requisitions at this point in time. I just ran it as we were speaking today. So all else changed other than significant changes to requisitions. With the tax increase, our mill rate is actually fairly comparable to prior year. I also have what has changed year over year for the, just let me open it, the total assessments. So our residential has increased by 23 million, so a 4.78% increase. So it was 486.9 million in 2023, and this year it's 510 million. So 23 million increase on that. And non-residential has also increased by 2.3%. It was 237 million in 2023, and it's 242 million in 2024. So an increase of 5.5 million. Overall increase in taxable assessment. As you know, we have some grants in lieu and other non-taxable exempt items. It's a net increase of 4%. But with the percentage of residential versus non-residential, even with these increases, people aren't going to see a significant change in their dollars on their tax notices. So obviously your assessments increased a comparable mill rate to the prior year. You're just paying the difference of the increase in assessment. It's not going to be a huge increase or decrease based on the swing between residential and non-residential. So if we had a significant change in assessment where we lost a large portion of non-residential, even though we kept taxes exactly the same, if we kept the rates exactly the same, the residential would have to pick up for that, which we're not seeing this year. So I'm just looking for direction of council if we want to maintain the 47-53% residential versus non-residential.
And when we put the budget together, we all
That's-
agreed that we were basing it on that.
That's what we
Split.
agreed on. So
Yeah.
we're still all in favor of that.
Yeah, well, with the increase in res, I don't think that we need to look at any place else. I mean, 23 million, it's a
Yeah.
big increase in assessment. Sorry, yeah, 23
Yeah,
million.
23 million.
Yeah.
So there was some overall, there was growth as there was new housing completions as well as growth in the overall market
Assessment.
assessment. Yeah.
Any comments? Does anybody want to look at the split?
I'll be bringing for the property tax bylaw, which will be done also before the end of April, I will be bringing samples of what different residential rates look like based on. So before you approve the bylaw, we will make sure that you're well informed as to what that's gonna look like for an average household and an average business and average small business. So that's also coming likely April 16th as well. Because we send out tax notices May 1st, or like the first week of May.
And all that information you just spoke of, you'll send to us?
Yeah, it's in a memo, so I can forward it.
Okay, well, 4% growth in assessment is manageable for everybody. Oh, good. And res being the large portion, so it doesn't hurt the other way. We're not gonna lean, I mean, what was it, like 7, 8 years ago? It was a lot. We've moved that back to res a bit, where the non-res was picking up a lot more years ago.
I believe so.
I think we moved it at least 3 or 4 points. Okay,
Thank you.
that's everything you had in your memo?
That's everything I have in my memo.
Okay, is there any questions of Director Sasky? Counselor Lemko is saying good job. Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll get back to our agenda.
All right, so the first draft policy before you is draft policy GOV 10XX, civic recognition on the death of a current or former member of council. Administration has drafted a policy in order to provide consistent service in the case of a passing of a current or former member of council. While the MGA already stipulates the legislative procedures for by-elections in the case of a vacancy, it is in the best interest of the municipality to be prepared regarding how the town of Vegreville would prefer to recognize the passing of an elected official. As highlighted in Section 6, administration will need to be notified by the family of the death of a current or former member of council. Administration will offer the services listed for all current members of council immediately. For former members of council, especially those who have relocated from the community, a family member will need to notify administration of the former member of council's passing before administration can execute the procedure. This draft policy is being presented to council to consider the policy as a whole, the procedure regarding notifying administration of the death of a former member of council, and the services offered in the case of a passing of a current or former elected official. This policy will be brought back to council at the April 16th Legislative Committee meeting for discussion. The financial implications. According to the draft policy, the town may incur costs for the 2 to 3 floral tributes if Section 6.6 to 6.9 are activated. Further, if Section 6.7 of the draft policy is activated, costs will be incurred in relation to commemorative services for venue up to $2,000 and catering up to $8,000. If necessary, these purchases will be made from good purchased or services purchased of the council department budget. The communication strategy, if passed, this policy will be communicated with all members of senior management team. This policy will also be placed on the town website. So the options for council today are to review the draft policy and discuss at the next legislative committee meeting on April 16th, or to forego review of the draft policy and manage civic recognition practices on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody read the draft policy? Is there anything that anybody wants to discuss right now? Go ahead, yep.
6.6.1, all flags at town administration, post office, RCMP, emergency services, will be lowered to half-mast time of notification of death until sunset day of the funeral, or the commemorative service. Are we gonna put a time limit on that? Cause some been holding off I've been noticing just people in general holding off their funerals for months.
If it's not a reasonable expectation of time, Because remember, this is for a current member, current sitting elected official. If it's not a reasonable amount of time, or once the obituary comes out and the family has announced that a memorial service will be held at a later date, we will probably, at that time, determine a set number of days that the flags will remain at half-mast, and then move them back up.
Go ahead, Councillor Rudy.
So, sorry, I didn't see this before, before this afternoon. You've got highlighted in the next portion, 6.1, upon notification from the family. Is there, so I'm just imagining, I don't know that we have a complete list of every former council member, except anecdotally.
And that's, and I'm gonna guess where your question is going.
Yeah.
While we have a listing of all the mayors of the town since its corporation, we do not have a listing of council members. They have not, while we would need to go back into the archives and into the vaults, where, for every election term, and look at the oath of office. So that is why we have requested that the family reach out to us, because the other side of it, because we don't track it, if they've retired to BC, we don't even know how to get a hold of them. So by putting this policy in place and by putting it on the website and everything, it allows former former elected officials' families to contact us. And it puts it puts the onus on them to reach out and inform us as to passing.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of where my concern was, is to try to be comprehensive is a challenge, and not miss anybody. But I guess at the very least, having this policy in place will allow us to be able to explain that the onus is expected to be on outside of our entity. And maybe that's something that, I don't want a make-work project, but maybe that's something that, you know, in the recent history, it's a little bit easier to keep track of those documents because they're online, not necessarily historically, but it changes whose responsibility it is to reach out to the municipality.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, people move around, and if they've left the community for whatever reasons, we really, their next forwarding address, if they've moved on, we can't track them. So it's easier if the family has to be the one to contact us.
Who's gonna be folding these flags?
We'll have a course, and we'll teach all of legislative services how to
Imagine
fold
if
flags.
Council Lemkin knows how to do it in those fire chief days.
I've always asked Dale to do it.
Okay. So, let's say if I was to die under this policy, we could get a lot of tuna sandwiches.
Yes, there'll be lots of egg salad.
Okay, well, you know what, it's nice to put a policy in place.
Yeah.
And,
Well, unfortunately, there's been a few sitting elected officials over the past few years in Alberta that have passed unexpectedly, and it pays to be prepared.
Go ahead, Councillor.
And I appreciate that. I think the number one thing that nobody wants to see is the case by case. I understand that that was sort of the way it was done, but we want the same respect paid equally throughout. Now, I just did have one question, because unfortunately I only skimmed it. I didn't fully go through. Within the policy, does it basically say, you know, from the time that this policy passes forward, like we're not going back and, because I mean, not being disrespectful, but it's realistic to say that everybody from years back, there would be a lot if we were going back. So I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, it starts from the
Day of the passing.
the day of the passing of the policy.
Well, I think it's important too, especially if there's no notification of a former councillor or mayor from their family, knowing, you know, that they would like us to do something, then there's really nothing that we do.
That's true.
Okay, so we'll see this Monday's meeting?
Okay, if council's ready, we can present it Monday, yep.
Hopefully nothing goes wrong between now and then.
Jeez, that's ominous. Look both ways when you cross the street.
Let's get her through there quick.
Put your seatbelt
You're in
on.
the glass half full,
Yeah.
kind of empty.
Okay, next up,
Okay, the next up is the draft policy, GOV, 10XX condolence and congratulation policy. So, in order to show the town of Vegreville employees support during times of joy, sorrow, or special occasions, administration has drafted a policy that will establish a consistent practice when using public funds to wish condolences or congratulations. Administration is requesting council review the proposed policy and be prepared to discuss any questions or alterations at the April 16th Legislative Committee meeting. Financial implications of this policy, flowers or donation in lieu not exceeding $75 will be purchased from each department's goods purchased. As indicated in section 6.2 of the draft policy, council may increase the amount spent or decide on a different form of recognition for special circumstances. The communication strategy is, if passed, this policy will be communicated with all Town of Vegreville senior management team, managers, and employees. This policy will also be placed on the town website. So the options in front of council today are to review the draft policy for discussion at the next legislative committee meeting on April 16th, or forgo review of the draft policy and manage condolences and congratulation practices on a case-by-case basis.
okay, so everybody's had a chance to go through. Any comments? Go ahead.
So overall, again, I like to have a standardized policy, and I don't want this to sound harsh in any way. I'm just thinking of the mass numbers that it could be. So the only one I was kind of wondering, when we're looking at definitions, and some of them obviously make sense to me, parent, spouse, child, grandchild, I'm just sort of wondering a little bit on the sibling, grandparent side. And again, I don't want to sound, hard on that at all, but I'm just thinking that it could be quite reasonable to think that many staff members could have a grandparent pass, and I'm just looking at what that implication might be. So I'm just wondering what everybody else's thoughts might be on that one. And again, I'm not, I don't want to limit that. I'm just thinking more on the side of the condolences. If we were looking at everybody's grandparent and potentially siblings and whatnot, we could look at a really large number. And I don't want to miss anyone as well, of course.
Any comment? Go ahead.
So I didn't see that so much as a concern, but I absolutely hear what you're saying. I think the one thing that I appreciate is a standardized approach across departments. I think that's a great goal to have, and having it in policy allows some more consistency. I'm just curious, ideally, most managers would know their staff well enough, but it seems to me that you would have to know your staff really well to be able to know, realize, or even be able to offer condolences, even just verbal condolences for the loss of a grandparent or grandchild or sibling. Maybe a grandchild's a little bit different, but it requires an intimate knowledge of the people that you work with.
Part of the definition is it's taken right out of our employee policy manual, and these are the definitions for immediate family when it comes to bereavement. So if you are asking, like, your manager will find out that, let's say, your sister-in-law has passed on, because when you come to ask for time off for the funeral, that is when we'll be informed.
That's how the notification.
That's most of the notification. And, thankfully, we are a very tight-knit group, and we usually know.
I had an employee that worked for me for 7 years, and his grandmother died 4 times. It was bizarre.
Big family.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this is no, we've been doing this ad hoc anyway, correct?
Yes, it's kind of, basically the policy is based on our standard practice. And this just formalizes it and puts it in writing for when new staff members come in and positions change. And then it's always, they can go to the policy when they come, like as we're hiring managers that are out, that are in from other communities, then they have kind of the working knowledge of how we do things.
And I would say that I like having that policy also, just because I think it would be important for the managers to know that as well, because there might have been times where we may have had a staff member come to a manager and request the time off, and of course it was granted, but then maybe that next step of maybe the notification. So I just want everyone to always be treated the same, is my biggest point. We just want everyone to feel like the same lens has been applied to them, so.
And fortunately, we are usually very, very good on the condolence side. We seem to lack on the congratulatory side.
So who makes the decision, flowers or donation in lieu of, the staff member?
It's, for the most part, it's usually flowers unless there is a specific request from the family, like
flowers.
of the funeral, no flowers.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the congratulations? Was it also flowers?
Yes, it's flowers for congratulations, and the congratulations are the birth of adoption of a child, a marriage of a staff member, or retirement of a staff member.
Okay, so that does include grant, okay, yeah.
Okay. There will be a card, right?
Oh, sorry, a card, yes.
Okay, that's a good one.
As I'm reading the line below, it says flowers not to exceed. Yeah.
Okay. If there's no questions on that, I guess we'll see that on Monday as well.
Okay, we'll have it prepared for Monday.
Now, the exciting stuff.
Okay, next, we have a memo to council regarding full facility banning. When members of the public behave in an inappropriate or unsafe manner in our town-owned facilities, administration has the ability to ban the offending member of public from that particular facility. Facility bans can run anywhere from a week to a set number of months, and the length of the ban is determined by the severity of the behavior along with a recommendation from the facilities department manager. This type of facility ban is only for this specific facility that the offense took place in and does not affect any other facilities. While it is a rare occurrence, there are times when administration will place a full facility ban on a member of the public. A full facility ban is put into place when the offense is violent in nature or an accumulation of ongoing behaviors that start to affect the daily functions of town staff. Full facility bans are not taken lightly and are discussed at senior management level to ensure that access required, and are discussed at senior management level to ensure that access to required services is not being denied to the offending member of the public. The reason this is being brought before council is to discuss if a full facility ban should include the Centennial Library. The issues with the library is that it is housed in a town-owned and partially town-operated facility, because we operate the gymnasium, and the library proper is run by their management board. The current practice for a full facility ban is to contact the library manager and discuss whether or not the library would like to be included in the ban. There are times where they do not want to ban the offending member, as their relationship with the member can be quite different than that of the other town departments. While administration respects the library's right to offer or refuse service, we feel that with the severity of the offense required to warrant a full facility ban, and since the library operates within a town facility, a full facility ban should automatically include the library. Communication, copies of the letter to the banned individual banned individual are sent to municipal enforcement, the RCMP, and all of the departments. So the following options are available to council today, and it's to allow for administration to include the library in full facility bans, have administration continue to discuss the ban with the library to allow the library to opt out of the full facility ban, or exclude the library entirely from full facility bans.
Perfect. We got options. Where do you want to start the conversation? Go right ahead then, Councilor Riddick.
So, this feels a little different than the conversation that we had with the full facility ban for an individual. Like, my understanding was that the library made the decision and that was their authority to do so. And my concern in the past when I was on the library board, that the town had made some decisions to ban certain individuals, and the library board was not kept apprised, and that was at a different time when there was different CEO in place. And a big disconnect in terms of sharing information, particularly in the midst of some facility bans that were also related to COVID restrictions, et cetera, at the time. So there's been quite a swing the opposite way. So it was very separate and not sharing of information, and this is kind of going the opposite way. Can you maybe explain a little bit more? Like, I appreciate the feeling that it is a town facility. I understand that portion of it, but for all intents and purposes, it's been very clear that this council and administration has felt very strongly that library board is responsible for the decisions that they make in running the facility in the way that they choose. So I want to better understand, and maybe I need to hear from the people at this table too, the change in approach. I'm not saying I disagree or agree, because I think in the past it was too separate, leaving the library staff largely vulnerable, in my opinion. And we had some very blatant examples of when it would have been great to have a more continuous line of communication. Just with the timing that we had a few instances, and new library manager and change in leadership here, which happened to coincide with some pretty big confrontations that they weren't prepared for. And this is quite a change, so.
The reason this is brought up is there has, yes, we have currently put out a full facility ban on a member of the public just in the last couple weeks. And it was discussed with the library manager, and that library, for this particular individual, this individual does have a separate relationship with the library board or the library, and is actually very well behaved there. So they did not ban this individual, which is understandably their right. But it got us thinking, and we had discussions at senior management. We have another full facility ban on a member of public that was violent in nature. So, and when we banned this other individual, they asked about that ban, and we're kind of sitting here around senior management going, well, now we're putting the library staff in danger if we don't include them in this other individual's particular full facility ban. The nature of the ban involved a weapon that can be concealed, and they can be in the building. So at what point, it's just, we just feel if it's violent in nature, we should just say no right across the board, because what happens if something happens in there afterwards?
Again, I don't disagree with that. I'm glad that there's been more consideration, because I'm not sure if you're referring to the same individual, but there was a criminal charge where an individual was not allowed to enter our facilities, and yet was perfectly able to interact with our staff at the Visitor Information Center, which is largely young women that are by themselves, as compared to a facility like this where that individual is not allowed to enter any of our facilities. So are you speaking in that sort of specific sense? Because I think a full facility ban for somebody that's violent and has been convicted of a criminal charge, to me, seems reasonable, even if it is an outside facility that we monitor and operate.
And
I think
that's-
that, before we go much further, a library board itself does not operate the facility. They have no input in operating the facility. It's all the monetary funds that are supplied by the taxpayers of Vegreville. They have the ability to operate the operations of a library. That's what they do. So, and again, to pick and choose from a separate board that operates within a town facility, that everything is paid for by the town of Vegreville, my personal views on that would be, you're just gonna open yourself up to a lot of problems. Like, if it's owned and maintained and operated by the town of Vegreville, that is a town-owned facility.
The only thing, sorry, Your Worship, the only thing I'd say is, like, not as rebuttal, but as added information, in the past, the town's approach has been, too bad, so sad, library board, you should have known that by themselves. And my concern at the time was to say repeatedly, how on earth would the library know this if I wasn't attending those meetings as a representative of council? That's a failure of our administrative ability to be able to share with the manager, no different than sharing with managers that operate different operations within the town. So I may have misspoken how I represented. Of course, the library board runs the operations of the library within a town-owned facility, but this is a change in our approach as the town towards the library, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, because we've gone the other way in the past, quite, I think, in error, because it's put our staff here in a different space of safety when we have more vulnerable, more isolated facilities like the Visitor Information Center or the library, where people are working alone that could be more in danger by those very violent, convicted of violent offenses. So
It
I'm
is
not in-
my definite recollection that you have, in the past, the last two former CAOs of the town of Vegreville, you have brought this to their attention and called them out on it.
Yep.
So I think this policy just enforces what we've seen not work in the past. And now if we're leaving that choice up to the board, I don't think that it's fair. I mean, we never appreciated not sharing that information with them before. And now to leave a gray area, I mean, inform them that somebody is, and then let their board decide who they consider dangerous or not dangerous, when they're in our facility. So Councillor Berry is first, and then you'll be next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think one of the changes that has occurred there is that the library no longer does any management of who can book the rest of the facility, the gymnasium, the boardroom, etc. So there is one main entrance door that you come through that actually comes into a town facility. Then you go into a second door, which is the library. So I think that's one of the things that we have to distinguish now as to the change in how that area is. So technically, an individual who is banned from all facilities has to enter a door into the town facility before they can enter the library. And the library board itself does have the opportunity to ban an individual from the library without asking the town or having it affect any other facility in the town. But I do believe that if you're forced to consider an all facilities ban because somebody is violent, then I think it should apply to the library. But at the same time, the library should be notified very clearly as to what that is taking place. I think that I agree with you in the aspect that from a policy that leaving the library totally out of it could put the library staff at risk if they're not aware of it. And I think that I'm hearing both sides of it here. Some of our facilities, some of our staff are a little bit more isolated and definitely at risk. So I think we do have to be very careful when we have somebody who is a violent offender and has to be banned. But I think that that should include the library, because I'm agreeing with the aspect that they don't operate the facility, but they do operate a library within a facility that the town provides. So that's my position on it. And I've been with the library, I've been with Northern Lights, and it is a sticky wicket as to how much control and authority the library board has. And once you enter the library and it's a library service, they have full control. But I think that with us changing some of the things, you have to enter the town facility before you can actually get to the library. So I think that makes a little bit of a difference in point from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warwick?
Mine actually mirror a little bit of what you both said. I definitely think it is a change, so I think we have to communicate that, properly to them, to let them know that this is based upon the facility usage. This is also based upon protection for them, protection of the fact that we keep records of people that would have bans versus they have a board that's a volunteer board that's ever changing. So I think it's important for us to communicate that. For me, the biggest point would be, though, pretty much what Councillor Barry said. I don't think you guys take full facility bans lightly. It takes a lot to get a person to that point. And I think we have to remember that in that building, typically if a person has had a full facility ban, they've often gone at staff members from different departments. While in that building at any given time could be staff members running other programs, janitorial, maintenance, and we open them up, and that would be my main reason. I also think that it is noted that while we can make the facility ban, there may still be options for the library to choose whether or not they completely ban them from all levels of library service. If they have virtual programming offered online and whatnot, nobody's saying they can't continue with that. It is just our physical facilities. So for that reason, and at the end of the day, always erring on the side of protection, I would support that a facility ban becomes and includes that building, which is our facility.
Okay, Councillor Lip?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I too agree with a full facility ban. I don't think we can pick and choose, nor should the board be able to pick and choose if an individual has the right to come and read library books if they're banned from any of our other facilities. I think it's important that we stand unified in making that decision, our own facilities. If the individual has earned a full facilities ban, I think they've earned the right to have that for the library as well.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. I agree as well, and I just hope that, on the opposite side, if the library comes to us with an individual that has done something that's similar to what caused a full facility ban somewhere else, that we would also side with them and give a full facility ban as well, not just the library on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I think that we're all in the same train of thought here. I mean, Councillor Rudick was proving that this was something that was needed, at least the communication of this over the last number of years. And we got to remember that when we give a full facilities ban, it's not for somebody laughing too much. No. I mean, we do this because it's a serious issue. And Councillor Ward was right. Our janitorial staff could be in there. I mean, maybe they get along with the programmer or the manager of the library, but we're exposing our employees in every one of our facilities. So we'll have a choice of the. Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I think it's pretty much been all said by everyone here, but I would support this policy. The reasoning of when they're violent, and it really doesn't matter who or what they are. Violence should be a full facility ban. And I support that. Councillor Walrus says about virtual for the library to attend. They can attend virtually. I think that's great for anybody that's in that position if they feel like they're being shoved out. But don't be violent. You won't get banned.
So we will have this on Monday, and we'll have the three options in front of us. And the question will be, who supports number one? And again, the expectation of council would be is that we're sharing that information both ways with the library manager and the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want a question clarified. Have you spoken to the manager and the chair, or like through Councillor Warwa now, or are they aware that we're discussing this policy?
They're not aware we're discussing this policy because this was kind of a last-minute addition late last week, and unfortunately, we've been short a few days due to the Easter weekend. So the library manager is on my agenda tomorrow to call and have this conversation with. And part of the reasoning for this is a big portion of it is their safety, but it's also, we've had individuals that are going into the library proper that end up in the gymnasium, and while we're running recreational programming with children. So that is another thing. Well, it's not their requirement to take care of it because they no longer take care of the bookings and stuff like that, and they may not be aware of what's going on in the gymnasium. This is part of the conversation that we have to have, where it's just, we need to just say no. If it comes to a point where it's a full facility ban, it's not a personality conflict between a manager and a patron. It is an issue with the patron itself, and it also makes it a lot easier when we send notification to municipal enforcement and to the RCMP, where they don't have to, like, these are all the facilities, they're banned. It's not of, okay, this person's only banned from this building, this person's only, it's just much easier.
Okay, go ahead.
How do we make sure employees know that that person is banned, and if they walk in the door, how would they know that that is the person?
Okay, the letter, a copy of the letter is sent to municipal enforcement, to the RCMP, and to all department managers, so that would include the library. There's only been the one ban where the individual is not well known to every single department. Usually the individuals being banned have reached a point where they are well known to the majority of the staff. Usually somebody in the building knows what they look like or who they are, and if they absolutely don't, we do try and see if we can capture a still from the security cameras to be able to send out at least a fuzzy greeny picture.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I just know we have the summer students starting up, especially at the Vic, as we know is very isolated and vulnerable, and I don't know that they would know potentially what people look like. So that's just something to keep in mind while we bring up this topic.
Okay, so maybe that's what this is lacking right here.
Okay.
Is what is the follow-up? How do we get this information out to facilities, to the employees? Maybe we should have something in there. And if you're meeting with the library manager tomorrow, if there's concerns or some discussion that on their behalf they would like council to hear about, if you could bring those back to us on Monday.
Yes.
Just a follow-up
Okay.
Just when we say facilities, and I know we talked about the Vic a little bit, does our facilities mean just the physical building, or is the area around it a facility? I just wanted to double
For
check
the
that.
majority of it, it is the buildings themselves. We have, however, in the past issued a ban to our parks and green spaces as well. Those are a little bit more difficult to manage. The biggest ban is to the Pesinka Park. And the reason why that individual was banned from there is the actual, the incident took place within the park versus within the building.
And that individual had a hard time cutting through the park without going to the Vic.
Yeah.
So it just became easier just to say, you're not allowed here at all.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the staff stay inside the Vic the whole day. They're monitoring, the mini pot, everything, picking up garbage and trimming and stuff. And and to have confrontation at the site is never good. But if you could just extend this a little bit, CEO Ling, and with just how the notifications will be out to facilities, to the employees, so that it's a standard practice that we do every time.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any more on that? Everybody's good to go on Monday on that too?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the next one.
Okay, the next topic for discussion is the deaccessioning of the Vegreville Museum. With the letter from the Honorable Tanya Furr, Minister of Arts, Culture and Status of Women, stating that the town of Vegreville has the authority to deaccession the collection of the Vegreville Regional Museum as it sees fit, the municipality can now create an administrative directive for dealing with the articles at the museum. To begin the process of dealing with the articles, a formal motion to permanently close the current museum will be presented at the next council meeting on April 8th, 2024 for approval. A special thank you to Councillor Barry for all his hard work in researching prior and current legislation to ensure that the town is following the proper steps in dealing with the museum articles. Attached is a draft deaccessioning directive that will also be brought forward to the next council meeting for approval. Once the deaccessioning directive has been approved, administration would like to propose the following plan to reduce inventory at the museum. Number one, the accessioned articles will be separated from the non-accessioned articles. The non-accessioned articles will be stored separately for disposal during steps 4, 5, and 6. Council will review the accessioned articles in a manner they see fit to decide what articles having a significant historical value to Vegreville should remain for future displays in a different format and/or venue. And these items will be separated and stored. Number 3, invitations will be sent out to the Alberta museums to view the accessioned listing for gifting or transfers. Viewing will be on a scheduled basis over the span of no more than 2 weeks. Articles wanted by another museum will be recorded and removed. Number 4, after the other museums have gone through the accessioned articles, contributors and/or families will have the opportunity to request donated items be returned to them. This will be done by A, advertisements on the town's social media, website, radio, and newspaper running for a 2-week period asking families to contact the town in a specific manner. Contributors and/or families need to be able to describe in detail what was donated. There will not be a public walkthrough of the museum beforehand. There will be a 2-week period to collect the artifacts once the advertising is completed and we can confirm the items in the request. And D, all removed accessioned articles will be recorded. Number 5, all remaining artifacts, accessioned and non-accessioned, will be put up for public auction. The advertisements on the town's social media, website, radio, and newspaper running for a period of 2 weeks. An auctioneer will be hired to complete the auction, and all sold accessioned articles will be recorded. Number 6, any remaining articles left over from the auction will be destroyed and disposed of. All destroyed accessioned articles will be recorded. And number 7, all deaccessioned records will be retained as per the town's record and retention bylaw, and in this case, it's bylaw 052023, Records Management and Retention Bylaw, under Schedule B, Legislative Services, Section 6.11, it's a permanent record. So these will be held on permanently. The financial implications, there will be a minimal cost to the process, which would include advertising expenses and some staff wages, depending on the amount of staff involvement in the process. The proceeds from the public auction would be used to offset the cost to the town for the expenses incurred during the disposal of the museum artifacts. So the options before council today are the following options are available. Number 1, direct administration to write the directive with the steps outlined in this memo. Number 2, advise administration of specific steps that they would like to add and/or remove from the directive. And 3, ask administration to devise a different strategy altogether.
Okay. Thank you.
And attached is the, well, it's called the Vegreville Museum Decessioning Policy. It would be, instead of a policy, it would be a directive, because policies are forever. And once this is deaccessioned, we will no longer need the policy.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Definitely, we need to have a directive to move forward. As you all know, it's a personal heavy heart to see the museum have to close, but with the overall, the last few years, there's been no real interest expressed by the residents concerning the museum, and the town just cannot take on the responsibility of operating a museum. Most museums in the area and in Alberta are operated by cultural societies, historical societies, or museum societies. And this one here started out as being operated by societies. And it's unfortunate now that the town is in a situation where you cannot keep pouring money down into a facility to try and operate a museum. And I'm saying that as I support museums, and this is hard for me to realize and express and recognize that the town has to take these steps. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
Thank you for bringing this forward. We've had this conversation around this table a number of times, but it's important for us to do this publicly. And it's maybe ironic that the decision was made in 21 that the society would close down. So the passage of time marches on. This is almost 3 years later, a little bit more, that we haven't quite determined what happens next. So I'm glad that there is special recognition to Councillor Barry for the additional work that he's done outside of the usual responsibility of a councillor. So thank you very much for doing that and making sure that we adhere to not only our legislative responsibilities, but also maybe more our moral or ethical responsibilities as a community to ensure that we do this transition in a way that's as gentle as it possibly can be. I appreciate that there is some thought given to how we'll move through these steps. The only question that I would have is number 2, just because ultimately council is going to determine, review the accessioned materials, and with great respect to all of us at this table, me taking a couple of history courses at university certainly does not make me a historian or somebody that is maybe appropriate to determine what's appropriate for keeping for this facility. I mean, some things might be more interesting, knowing the history in a general sense of the area. So, it may not hurt to have, at this point, when we get to that point, to have maybe some recommendations from, some recommendations about which would be the most pithy and interesting to share with the public in terms of historical relevance. And again, with due respect to all of us at this table, I'm not sure that ultimately we're making the decision about budget, and we may need a little bit of assistance there. So I appreciate that there's been some thought to how we're actually going to work through these steps, because this isn't going to be easy, and understand that we have a role to play here as governors of the community. So thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Rudy, for the vast majority of items that have been accessioned, they are recorded, and in the accessioning paperwork, it often gives the provenance of the item as to what it was used for, by who it was donated, and etc. So we do have some of that information available to us for some of the items that might have the most historical. But certainly, I would imagine that there are residents that might have some knowledge on that as well, but so far they haven't stepped forward.
Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I too want to thank Councillor Barry for all his hard work over the past few years, from being on the past museum board and trying to keep it together for everybody. It's a sad thing for us to see the museum get to this point. None of us want to see it get to that point. It's also not fair for this council to tie the next council's hands and deal with this now instead of carrying on, because I have my doubts that you ever see a councillor or a human being in this town that worked as hard as Councillor Barry to keep this museum alive and tried to rally people together. So this is a very difficult decision for us and for everybody in the community that is interested in it. Everyone kind of had their chance to say something, and we've gotten to this point, so we have to move on.
Well, I'll save my praise for Councillor Barry till we're done, because there's still a lot of work to do, and he has that notebook. So, I think we all recognize how much you've put in to try to, revise the Historical Society, even though we were downsizing, and now it's left us, and these steps seem appropriate to me. Maybe, who knows, we may be the model of how people do this in the future. We don't know. But it needs to start, and we need to move forward. What's going to happen with that building? And again, there's a lot of work that Councillor Barry's going to be involved in that coded messaging that we see in this moving forward. So we have 3 options that are going to be presented to us on Monday night, and we will make a decision. Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
I just want to say that I think we're very grateful as well to Minister Furr for providing some clarity, because unfortunately, as is the case in most councils, people come together not specifically with a full knowledge of background of some of these acts. They're very intensive, and sometimes they don't even necessarily, through some of the municipal government information, let us know what can be done. So I feel like it did give us a great step forward, actually getting, a clarification and, in a way, I guess the word of release of procedure to know what to do next. So I think that's greatly appreciated.
All right. The next, are we ready to move on? Sorry.
Are we doing the council calendar? You're doing that, or I'm doing that?
No, I'll do it.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so the next, my last memo, yay, is the 2024 council calendar. Historically, council decreases the amount of council meetings that are held during July and August and in December. As both summer months and December are not particularly a busy time legislatively, the decrease in meetings allows for both council and administration to book off time without missing one or more meetings. In the past few years, council has opted to hold one legislative committee meeting and one council meeting in July and August, and cancel the second legislative committee meeting and council meeting in December for the holiday season. At the March 5th Legislative Committee meeting, council was asked to review their calendars ahead of today's discussion. Administration is recommending the following: Legislative Committee meetings be held on July 9th, 2024 and August 13th, 2024. Council meetings to be held on July 15th, 2024 and August 19th, 2024. And to cancel the meetings on December 17th and the 23rd on 2024. Once council determines which or if any of the meetings are canceled and or moved, the new dates will be placed on the council calendar on the town's website. So the options are: council may accept the 2024 calendar as recommendations, or council may decide an alternate schedule for the meetings held in July, August, and December, or council may decide not to cancel and or move any meetings for the 2024 council calendar.
Do you guys remember ever having all these options? Like today, we're seeing 3 options and everything. What we usually get is a recommendation. So, we had these dates we discussed earlier. Is there anybody that is opposed to these dates in July and August to start with? Okay, and the December one is, it is what it is. I mean, we're not gonna move that one around, so. Okay, so if you could make a recommendation to bring option one,
Actually, we don't need a motion of council in a formal meeting, because it's more than 48 hours notice, and we just changed the council calendar on the website, and we're good.
well, luckily, we all know that. We were testing your knowledge. So, if you would kindly move forward and sending this and populate our calendar with the dates that we've chosen, we appreciate it.
Okay, we will get that done. Thank you.
And there will be 48 hours notice on these cancellations, right? Because.
Yes, there will.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Next up is my items. Address to Town Council regarding the Deerland Vegreville Country Fair. Dear Town Council, the Vegreville Agricultural Society is excited to be hosting once again our annual fair. This year, the board has decided to go ahead with 5 full days again, August the 7th to the 11th. As you are aware, these events take countless volunteer hours. We are hoping that members of Town Council would once again be interested in driving our shuttle carts for our fairgoers. We believe this is a great opportunity for council members to give back to their community and chat with the residents and visitors. If you're interested in helping again this year's, please kindly reply to our office. Is there anybody that doesn't like doing it? I actually really enjoy it. I mean, I think it's great, so.
I'd like to request a non-rain day, but sure. By the fourth hour, it was a little cold, but it's fun.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't need to.
Yeah, I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken, Leslie built a calendar of dates, and we populated that, and then we sent that over to Rachel.
Sure.
Is that what, if I remember right, that's what we did last year? I suggest that again.
Concur that you made a schedule and sent it over to? Okay, so,
Your worship, I probably won't go on that schedule because I'll have other duties that I'll be having to do at the fair. But if I can talk with them if they have any open areas where I could take over if I'm not doing something else.
okay, sounds good, and again, it's a lot of fun to help out there, and then you get to talk to residents, and not just residents of the town of Vegreville, residents of the county and stuff, and it's okay. Also from the Vegreville Agricultural Society, regarding opening ceremonies, the Vegreville Deerland County Fair. Dear Tim McPhee, Mr. Tim McPhee, we would certainly love to have you join us on stage and bring greetings on behalf of the town of Vegreville at this year's Vegreville Deerland County Fair. The opening ceremonies will be held on Wednesday, August the 7th at 5 p.m. We anticipate it lasting half an hour. Kindly indicate if you can attend by calling our office. So if we could call the office and let them know. The more the merrier, we'll all coming out. Okay, so next up is a letter, Easter greetings from the Mayor of Stry, City Council in Ukraine. Happy Easter. Dear friends in our sister city, wishing you a joyous Easter filled with love, peace, and happiness. May this special day bring renewal, hope, and prosperity to all in your community. From Stry, Ukraine, we send our warmest regards and heartfelt wishes for a blessed Easter celebration. Warmest regards, Ole. I won't even attempt the last one. Canavats, Mayor of of Dry City Council. Well, that's very nice. They keep sending these, and hopefully we're sending them one of them once in a while. How's that going anyway?
Well, so it is a bit of a challenge, like trying to get some interested volunteers. So a couple of the people that we had previously are no longer as available as they were. And it is a bit of a challenge to even to include some of the Ukrainian, the new Vegreville residents that have come from Ukraine, because I thought that might be a good way to be able to mobilize some of their energy. But in speaking with a couple of them that I thought would be a good fit also, it's a bit of a challenge because they're at the end of the Kiewit visa and they're all feeling a little bit pinched for time and a little bit confused and concerned about where they are in the process of staying here, going back to Ukraine, trying to figure out what their next move is for permanent residence. So right now it's a little stagnant. And I wish I had something better to say, but the people that were interested are still kind of interested, but it's not necessarily the right time for them to mobilize. So again, if anybody has some good suggestions of people that would be able to start these conversations and have a way to be able to link in a meaningful way conversations with our sister city to talk about meaningful sharing of best practices on economic development and tourism opportunities potentially, that would be helpful. And maybe Councillor Lumko has some good volunteers to share.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. May I offer the opportunity to take this to the Vegreville Area Stands with Ukraine Committee and share our request, and that's a very knowledgeable and giving group that love doing what they do, and maybe there's an opportunity for them to love it even more with helping us out with our sister city.
Okay. Just on that note, I have a meeting coming up through Natigo with, we're starting meeting with ministers. So the Minister of Immigration.
Minister Yassine?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely gonna bring up the rural renewal stream and just what are the expectations of a provincial government? What do they expect a municipality to do? But when we're coming to the end of some of these permits, these immigration permits, is there questions that I should be bringing forward on behalf of the displaced Ukrainians that are in our town, or?
Certainly, Your Worship. Again, I could bring that back to the committee because they know all the challenges that are faced by those people in a personal level. And I can gather that information for you to take.
Yeah, and I think my meeting is May. Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was just going to share is a couple of the reach outs that I've made to folks is reaching the 2-year point, or even if they've just been here for a couple weeks, it's kind of immaterial either way for people that are still the major challenge for all of these families or individuals is getting meaningful employment that's going to attach them to a labor force to be able to determine how they're going to stay here in perpetuity, because quite frankly, our immigration policies have sort of left them in a bit of a quandary, because this Kiewit visa allowed them to come here under duress and access visitor permits in a way that isn't usually allowed, but it's also put them in a bit of a pickle because our permanent residence requirements don't really allow for people that have come here under this visa. And it's not just us, it's not just the people that have come to Vegreville. It's going to be a problem that needs to be addressed. And I think the province has tried to maybe push it to the federal government, but it's still an issue, because to apply for permanent residence, you need to apply with a certain qualification, and you need to have a certain number of points, you need to be working in certain type of employment, all at the same time. These are people that are more than willing to work, but language is sometimes an issue. There's not a lot of options here in Vegreville, for example, even though we've got great success with a great committee. That still doesn't change federal legislation around immigration that they still need to follow. And there's not a lot of good answers. It's not black and white. It's not like do this and you can become a permanent resident. And these are people that may not legitimately have any place to go back to, that there's literally no home to return to.
Okay, so, Councillor Lemko, if you'll talk, the meeting is on April the 24th. And if there's some direct questions that I could ask, then I will hold the minister to an answer in that conversation.
Just one
Go ahead.
question. One thing that I would see that could massively help the program, because, so they're here on their permit. So in one way, they can apply for an extension to their work permit. Because what they're trying to do is in some way find some way to build enough points to show they have that Canadian worker class experience, right? Now, one of the other things that would have gotten them that, because some of them are just not able to gain it just because they have a spouse, which changes their category. The pointing is also based upon the spouse's English. So there's ways that, I mean, we have these super, beneficial contributing people that just can't get enough points. So one thing that I would see is if under either their rule stream or the provincial nominee, they could create a sublet for people who came in specifically under Ukraine Kiewit visa, and they could attach a time frame. If they could say, under this rural renewal, you will get a provincial nominee for literally the Kiewit stream, and it would be within X number of days. If they could give them that, that's an automatic application to the PR. Automatic. Like, so if they would, maybe if you want, I could email you what I mean with that, and that's but that would be something that would take away that Canadian experience class. It would get them that provincial nominee program. And right now, the province is trying hard. I mean, the reality is there's many forms of provincial nominee, but it's kind of open like this. And then what happens is people are looking to apply, but in the case of these folks, they don't have quite enough to get them the Canadian experience class route. So they're like waiting and waiting, and the provincial nominee to get that actual nominee can take a long time. If there would be a stream off that is specifically, and I mean, I think as a province, as a country, we've acknowledged the fact that we're recognizing Ukrainian people coming in a different way than maybe some of the other people who are here for immigration. If they would allow a stream that was specifically nominees for Kiewit visa holders, that would be massive. That would be a massive change, and it would be almost immediate change because they would immediately be able to apply those points for a provincial nominee program. But the problem is they don't qualify to get those points until they get that nominee. So we need something that's for them, that's quick, that has a time frame. If you could say 30 days from the time you applied, there shouldn't be much. If they can give you a Kiewit, if that application was held to provincial nominee for Kiewit visa holders, all they'd have to do is provide them the copy of the Kiewit visa. There wouldn't be a lot to review.
So does the minister, for the provincial minister of immigration, does he have that ability to put that in place?
They would, because they can decide what kind of provincial nominee programs they have. So I'll maybe send you a little bit of what that would look like just in an email so that you'd have it. But, if they could look at something like that, because at the end of the day, they have a few different streams that they use for giving you that nominee. And that nominee is one of those things, it gives them 600 automatic points. It literally rockets them up. And there's different rounds of invitations that literally go to provincial nominees. So if they could look at one of their nominees, I know they thought rural, which is smart. They're trying to say, hey, let's not have everyone resettle in the urban. We want to resettle them to the rural, and that's great. But what it did is it just opened it up for all gammas of, if we're truly as a province trying to approach the Ukrainian issue and support them, there needs to be one stream for Ukrainian Kiewit holders. That would literally change the game.
Okay, and we'll ask the parliamentary secretary for Ukrainian, displaced Ukrainians on, when do we have a meeting with them? Thursday? Yeah, we'll
I'll
ask.
send you that tonight. I'll put it together tonight.
Okay, so yeah, and again, if there's any, I mean, it's a pretty complicated system if you ask me. But if they could make it a little bit simpler, so that's a question I'll be bringing some other mayors and reeves of some other municipalities in Natigo have the same situation where they have some displaced Ukrainians in their communities, and they're getting all worried, so.
Just if there was somebody that was able to tell them, this is your stream, this is what you, there's so many options out there for the majority of them that can't speak English.
Yep.
The challenges these people are facing, they have no place to go. They are here, hoping to stay here, worried about not being able to. I can't imagine the stress these people are under.
Okay. So, good luck with, your reply to this. And I appreciate you taking this on. I mean, if it was Scotland and I could really speak the language. But you're not actually Ukrainian though, are you? You just have a very good knowledge of Ukrainian culture.
How about Ukrainian adjacent?
Nice. Okay, let's get into the round table. Councillor Barry.
Actually, I really don't have anything else to add right now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bullock.
Thank you. Actually, two different things. One was I had a business owner contact me about a waiting period on doing a sign and stuff like that. I simply directed them back to planning and development, so hopefully they can get that answer for them. And another thing is I had a resident reach out to me about an adjacent neighbor that has trees over their fence, and it's making a mess in their yard for them, and they're complaining because it's costing them money to clean it up when it's not their tree. So I don't know how to direct them on that.
Well, tell the neighbor that I will fix that this spring. You talking about my neighbor?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
See, I mean, again, I don't know how bylaw works on those matters, but yeah, I know I feel bad at my neighbors. I go and rake the leaves up in their yard sometimes. But what do you do? It's a pretty big tree.
Big tree.
So did you ask them to phone bylaw or what you?
I did suggest that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Warwa, tell us about what you've been up to lately.
Well, I didn't have a lot of conversations because I was in Jamaica. I did get one update literally while I was sitting here, which I noticed and I just wanted to bring forward. Unfortunately, the chamber has made a decision. They did a Zoom meeting while we were on here that they are going to cancel the spring fling and just a little bit of low numbers. But I just kind of want to bring forward again that, you know, if they do look at rescheduling this, it was an excellent event. It was $20 with a live band and music by the Audibles, and it would have been a lot of fun. And I know that sometimes it is hard to get people out at different times of year, but again, just remembering that anytime we support community events, the same community groups, organizations, and the businesses within the chamber are often the ones that are then being tasked to donate back to us. So just, you know, remembers that going forward. However, they're making a decision, making sure to not spend at a time where the numbers and the sales were low. So for the ones that I had sold, I'll be contacting them, but I did, that literally just came through, had popped up on my computer.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
We had like 18 people. So I guess we'll all end up at your place.
That sounds like a plan. That seems like that's happened. And other than that, I don't have much else. I would say congratulations to, we had two Wrangler youth teams that were at provincials, both of which made it to the semifinal and both of which had heartbreaking OT losses, but you don't get much better than that. Our U18 went undefeated throughout. So, you know, congratulations to them. We're so excited anytime a team goes to provincials. We've had soccer provincials. We've had some others in it. It is really a great thing to see. And, you know, best of luck. They did a really good job. And I will speak to the U18s. What a series they had to get them there. 1 point games all the way through and 2 different games that went into OT. So congratulations to all of them. I will say congratulations to the Vipers that won last week as well. And yeah, so let's bring on all the spring activities now. And one other shout out I will go is I've been seeing and sharing around the startup and everybody's interest in slow pitches heading out. So just reminding everyone, it's very easy to kind of get going and not want to think ahead to summer, but everybody get out there and get registered, and looking forward to what comes this summer. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Lemko, what are you been up to?
Your worship, I was with 6 other Vegreville residents fishing in Manitoba. There was a lot of talk about politics, but it was all federal.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. Not too much to add for me. Just again, some talk around people are noticing some of these derelict buildings getting knocked down, and they're very happy with that. They see that we're making a move on stuff and things are moving forward. So that's been brought up to me a few times. And I was going to talk about the spring fling, but everybody else did. So.
Thank you. Councillor Riddick.
Okay, I had 3 things. First off, there was somebody that called me, and then I noticed myself a construction pile placed on a major roadway that was not lit or identified for a driver. So it wasn't our stuff, it was a private contractor. And again, just to remind people that they can take a picture and put it to our website to be able to report that so that it's identified, but I'm not sure that they did that. And I know that I didn't send it. It was, 9:30 at night. I didn't send it in. But a reminder during construction season that anybody that's doing any work in their yard still needs to adhere to whatever the road restrictions are, or being able to have it identified clearly, because this was on 47th Street. So it's pretty busy, largely used road without any lights or the caution tape is not helpful when it's dark outside. So caution tape was on the pile of gravel. So I don't know if there's anything that would be useful for clarifying there. I don't know. It just needs to be lit, I think, identified.
Well, hopefully it's in the hole this afternoon. It was there this morning, but hopefully it's down in the hole today.
So that was a concern. I want to let everybody know that there have been a number of resolutions similar to the one that we passed here about the federal infrastructure funding not keeping pace with population growth. And FCM was very pleased to hear that there was an announcement from the Prime Minister and Minister Fraser that there is a direct response. And what that looks like is $6 billion fund to address housing and urgent municipal infrastructure needs in a variety of different categories. So the word that we had previously was $0 towards infrastructure, and this is $6 billion reallocated. So it's not necessarily new funds, to your point, talking about how money is spent. But some of the highlights that are relevant to us here is $400 million top up to the Housing Accelerator Fund, as well as $1 billion directly delivered to municipalities to meet urgent infrastructure needs, including water and wastewater infrastructure. And again, that whole point about talking to the need to create housing across the country is extremely important, but everybody that lives in a house really likes roads to get there, as well as water, wastewater. Those are all really basic needs to be able to create the infrastructure upon which communities are built. And without municipal investment in those kind of basic core infrastructure, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you to this council as well as other councils for leading that charge. The federal government listened, and there's still more to come, but happy that there will be some money put towards that. And the last thing I was going to say is my family expanded by 1 over the weekend, so we have 1 more Vegreville resident. So very happy to welcome a new granddaughter to Vegreville residence, and that's my
You only
news.
had a policy right now, how we deal with this.
I don't need any policy to say thank you for having a community that they wanted to live in, to have that little baby. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations to the Vegreville Wranglers teams that went into the provincials and did very well. And a big congratulations to the Vipers. It was, I never seen them taking those first 2 away games and come and winning 3 straight like that, but it was awesome.
Yeah, neither did I.
I really haven't heard much from the community in a negative way. I have a meeting coming up with a certain Bearland Condo Association on Saturday afternoon, as I explain to them why we can't provide them with all the services that everybody else in town has. And I'm leaving it open. If anybody wants to join me there, there'll be punch and some other refreshments, I would imagine.
Literal.
Okay, that being said, again, now we'll move on to director's highlights, and we'll start with Director Lefebvre, since he's the only director in the room.
Thank you, Worship. Just 2 items right now. A reminder to everyone, it's been advertised, social media and press, paper. The MDP open house or municipal development plan, the open house is tomorrow. It's at the library. It's from 5 till 8. In the gymnasium, we'll have Peter the planner there as well, working with us. And yeah, just some, there's not a lot of real big changes. It's time to bring it out. We did meet as a group, the Land Use Committee, which is members of council and members of the community, and reviewed it. We have 1 or 2 suggestions where light industrial may move into, but again, this is a recommendation of the committee. Then the open house is now to get some public input as to what we're thinking of. We have received some comments already about maybe instead of changing this area to a light industrial, that would be best left as a highway commercial A agricultural area, which is basically right behind the RCMP station. There's a property there. So that's what this is about, to give us your opinion, and come on down tomorrow at the library gym. There won't be a lot of food there. There will just be some some coffee. That's what they're going to pick up. So if you have a chance to show up for that. New Edge Contractors, that's our Forest Main Lift Station upgrade project. Again, through the course of this project, there's been no near misses or incidents to date. The horizontal directional drilling is complete, so that part is done. We still have areas to daylight. The emergency bypass pumping will have to daylight and open up conventionally. The vault chamber at the lagoons has to still be opened up. The splitter valves around the lagoon still have to be done, and those we're just gonna wait until the ground is thawed and get in, and there's just a lot to dig through the frost, obviously. When we directional drill, we can open up a hole and basically drill underneath the frost, so it's easy going. So we're just gonna have to wait a little bit as they work on some of this emergency bypassing. That would be the status on there. We have received now the 3rd progress payment. All progress payments, all 3 including the engineering, has totaled 2.3 million to date, and the project total is 3.8. So we're at 1.5 million to go, and we have used 0 contingency at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Who's all gonna be going to the library tomorrow?
I have a chamber meeting.
You're going? All right. There's donuts. Okay, well, I'll be there early, but I have another thing at 6:30, so usually people don't roll in until after supper anyway, so. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to the CAO highlights.
Okay, regarding Councillor Rudick's, your first item that you had about the unlit construction material on the road, just a reminder to the community that we do have a 24-hour bylaw line for municipal enforcement. Well, the calls can be logged, your complaint can be logged 24 hours, and it is dealt with the next business day because, of course, our bylaw is not 24 hours, but That way, it's a one-stop. When it happens, they can call it in, and bylaw will go look at it the next day. Next business day, sorry. Just some highlights since the last legislative meeting. The CAOs of the county of Minburn, villages of Innisfree and Manville, and the town of Vegreville, we meet once a quarter. So I hosted Q1's Quad CAO meeting last week. Along with the corporate services director, met with the president of Municipal Assessment Services, which is our municipal assessors, our assessor group, and made some introductions and got a few questions answered right from the top. Worked with municipal enforcement on the full facility ban which sparked the conversation we had earlier. Municipal enforcement is now using the body-worn cameras, and they're working really, really well. Happened to take, the protective services manager came in with just a little demo video that they had done, and it's quite clear, and voices can be heard. They're going to be a great tool for them. And the town and county fire departments were out on Easter Monday dealing with their first of the season grass fire. So it's starting already. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we got a meeting, a council meeting on Monday coming up. Have we confirmed April the 18th, Elk Island Public Schools, how many are attending? And this is in Edmonton, Sherwood Park. So, Councilor Berry?
Maybe.
Well, they're making chili, we gotta tell them how much.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like there'll be 6 and a maybe. You guys want a carpool or? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we'll have a conversation on Monday night about how that will work. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay, so is there any other business of council? At this time, we have 2 closed session items, and they're both harmful to the economic and other interest of a public body. So this time, I'll take a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Berry makes the motion at 5:13. All those in favor? Carried.